buy you some beer after the meeting, just let me know. We are. Ready to go. Good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting of the Westfield, Washington Township Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Staff, can you note the presence of quorum, please?
Ms. Fortier.
Here.
Mr. Morales.
Here.
Mr. Schmitz.
Here.
Mr. McCarty.
Here.
Mr. Bowler. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, consideration of those minutes from last month's meeting on June 8th, 2021. Having had the opportunity to review those minutes, do we have any comments, questions, concerns about them?
I have one comment. Thank you for putting the times on for the YouTube. That's very helpful.
When we get, you spent some time with that at the Plan Commission meeting, and I think this is our first meeting since that change happened. Let's get these approved, and then maybe you can talk through that, just to explain that for the public and this board.
Yep, no problem.
I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of June 8th, 2021.
I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Fortier, second by Victor, to approve the June 8th, 2021 minutes. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I forgot that this was our first BZA meeting since switching how we're going to present the minutes. So as indicated, we have, we're going to start adding the timestamp to each different item. As you can see here on the screen, just highlighting where in the YouTube link of the meeting where each item begins. And the link to the meeting will be at the top of the agenda, so you can click it right here. It'll be an active link that you can click on and go and listen to that portion of the meeting, rather than us providing essentially a written summary. It was never really a transcript. It was more of a written summary of the meeting, and we think this is a little bit more innovative and a little bit better presentation of the actual meeting itself. So the written minutes will contain who was present, and it will also indicate who made motions and what the votes were for the different items, as well as public hearing information, the time and such. But so some of that kind of basic information will still be provided in the written version of the minutes, but we'll link back out to an audio and video.
So the written will really just kind of be skeleton minutes and not
That's right.
that. Okay.
That's right. And these will forever be available, at the very least at our office. People can come and observe them, and if they want to, we can set them up at a computer and they can listen if they don't have access at home.
Well, this link would be what would be available on the website when you look for minutes going forward, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll come to this document, and from here you can click to the recording.
Click the supporting docs and the video. Okay, that
That's
makes
right.
sense, everybody?
And
Thank
let the record show that Mr. Bowler arrived at 7:02 and is present now.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reviewing the rules and procedures. Mr. Crabtree?
Yes. Due to the COVID-19 emergency as declared by the Governor of Indiana, the format and conduct of the meeting has been modified to comply with executive orders regarding the conduct of public meetings, public hearings, and public gatherings. Relevant portion of the Indiana open door law have been amended or suspended during the pendency of the emergency. For items requiring a public hearing tonight's meeting has the following structure. The department will summarize the petition. The petition will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the board. The President will open a public hearing. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard, and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to board members. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments. The board will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. I do not believe we have anything on the agenda tonight that does not have a public hearing, so we'll skip that part. For the rules of conduct this evening, please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time. If you must answer them, please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regard to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, then please fill out a yellow card. They're available over here next to Kevin. Once the public hearing is opened by the president, please provide us your yellow card as you approach the podium. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record. We ask that you not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you will be advised when there is approximately 30 seconds remaining. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will be forwarded to board members and the petitioner. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Also, please mute your microphone when not speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Before proceeding with the agenda, I want to welcome Brian Morales to the board. He's agreed to serve. Ken Kingshill moved from Westfield, so we have a new member. So thank you, Brian, for serving.
Oh, thank you.
First item on the agenda is 2017 VS 22 16517 Brook Hollow Drive. Petitioner is requesting a variance of development standard to encroach 7.5 feet into a 30-foot minimum rear yard setback. And that is to accommodate a swimming pool and deck. And that is Mr. Crabtree.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of a development standard request for 16517 Brook Hollow Drive, a .38 acre parcel located in the Brookside subdivision. The request is to encroach 7.5 feet into the existing 30-foot rear yard setback to accommodate a swimming pool and deck. This item is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. It has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received no public comments. Additionally, the Brookside HOA has approved this request, which can be seen as Exhibit 4. The petitioner, Payman Haydarpur, is present this evening, though he does not plan to make a presentation. He is available for questions, as am I, if there are questions of staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess in the lack of a presentation, I will go ahead and call a public meeting to order at 7:07. Do we have any submissions prior to or any cards?
We do not have any cards, and as of right now, no emails either.
Okay, I'll give it a minute. Receiving no comments, we'll close the public hearing at 7:09. If the petitioner would approach, I did have a question or two. Other board members may as well. If you'll state your name and address for the public
Go
record,
ahead.
please.
Push the button down there.
Payman Haydarpur, 16517 Brook Hollow Drive.
Thank you. The questions I guess I had is that it's just proposed, correct? The pool is not constructed yet, correct?
That is correct. We have no permit.
Okay. And-
Sorry, we have no permit.
Okay. And then You don't show any landscaping on your plan. What is your intentions as far as landscaping, or do you have any plans for landscaping around the pool?
Very good question. At this point, we really don't have any landscaping plan. We just want to put the pool in and then see what we have to do after that.
Okay. Any questions from board, any comments?
I would just add that because this, there is a drainage and utility easement back there too, we just make sure that the landscaping would not go into the drainage utility easement, as that would be a public works request, but just an FYI on that.
So
There's
there
only
wouldn't-
so far it could be put back there, but it looks like there is plenty of room for at least.
And as you know,
some.
I've spoken with Mr. Root from the storm division, and he gave me the go-ahead. He said he spoke with the city engineer, and there were no issues because there's no utility lines or drainage back there.
So you would be able to put stuff
That is
back there
correct. I mean,
other than interfering with drainage
Yeah.
flow?
and as you know, Brook said is well-developed. There's not going to be any changes back there.
Yeah, that obviously mitigates any, to the extent you add landscaping, that kind of mitigates the effect of having things back in the easement and violating a setback. The bigger issue we have with setback violations is the scale, having something really tall. That's what you're trying to avoid. You're certainly not doing that.
The surface is
But-
flat, so
Sure.
it doesn't require any adjustment to the ground.
Okay,
Because I know there are other neighbors that they have swimming pools, and they had to do landscaping because the surface was not flat. My surface is flat.
okay.
And this backs up to a pond?
Yeah, that's just a pond.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like a pretty decent tree line on the east side of that trail also, correct? On the other side of the pond, I'm referring to.
Yeah, but half of them are dying. HOA is not really taking care of them, just
Okay.
the truth. They're not mine, they belong to HOA.
Anyone else with questions or comments?
Is your property fenced?
Correct, it is.
Okay, I thought it looked like it was.
Correct,
Will the fence be maintained or?
correct.
Okay, so that takes care of what I was concerned with landscaping, so. Anything else from this side of the room? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this petition.
I'll make a motion to approve 2107-VS-22-16517 Brook Hollow Drive with the recommended conditions that the property be developed in substantial compliance with Exhibit 3, and 2, that the petitioner shall record and acknowledge of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Economic and Community Development Department.
Second.
Motion to approve by Victor McCarty, seconded by Janine Fortier to approve this petition, subject to the staff recommended conditions. Dane, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes,
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
motion carries.
thank you. And I will make a motion to adopt staff findings of fact for the approval of this petition. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You're approved.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you. I'm free to go, right?
Next item on the agenda, 1609, or 2107 BS 23, 1609 East Greyhound Pass. Charles Duke, petitioner requesting a variance of development standard to exempt the architectural requirements for business districts for building additions to match the existing building. And the staff presenter is Rachel.
Thank you and good evening, members of the board. For the record, Rachel Remenschneider with the Community Development Department. The project before you tonight is for the Little Lamb Christian School. The property is zoned GB General Business District and is located at 1609 East Greyhound Pass. Adjacent properties north, south, and east are also zoned as GB. To the west is the Beacon Point subdivision zoned SF2. The petitioner is requesting a variance of development standards to exempt the architectural requirements for business districts for 2 proposed building additions. This item is before you for a public hearing and has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received no public comment. Andrew Wirt of Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, and Charles Duke of Little Lamb are here tonight to make a brief presentation. They are available for questions, as am I. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wirt?
Am I on? Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. For the record, Andy Wirt, land use professional with the law firm of Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, with offices at 110 North Union Street here in Westfield. Our firm represents Little Lamb Christian School. With me in the audience tonight is Chuck Duke. Chuck and his wife, Debbie, established Little Lamb back in 1987. 34 years, that's a long time. They were actually one of the first to build in this area. With the growth of the Westfield Carmel communities, the Dukes have just found it necessary to grow their facility with building additions planned, as you've heard, both on the north and south sides. We'd like to continue the architectural style with these additions. Westfield standards were created after our school was built. We believe continuing the existing vertical siding is really the most appealing approach. The building really has been extremely well maintained over the years. Architecturally, with the pitched roof and gable ends, provides a nice transition between the Beacon Point neighborhood to the west and the more intense commercial abutting US 31. But the architecture really is of the building has become more than just a physical space. It's actually become part of the branding of the business. Marketing materials reference the charming little blue house. The reality is that it reflects the Duke's philosophy on education. The playground is not visible from the road. There are mature trees on the site. The place really does not have an institutional feel, and that's by design. Might also add that in addition to having fine-looking property, the school has a proud history of community service, food drives, visits to senior centers, activities that not only give back to the community, but are character building for the students. We have reviewed the staff report, specifically the staff suggested conditions for approval. We certainly have no issue with those conditions. Don't really have much else to add to Rachel, that what Rachel hasn't already conveyed. We do believe we've got a little bit of a unique position here, again, because of the age of the building versus when the standards were established, and then just the location being a transition between residential and the heavier office use. I'm going to stop here, and Chuck and I are happy to address any questions you might have.
I have one initial question. What standards is it specifically that presented the problems that required the variance? There's general references, but not specific issues.
We've got, what is it, a 25, Rachel, I may have you.
So they are being exempt from the masonry requirements,
Okay.
and there's also a requirement for the uninterrupted, front line of the building that they would need some sort of modulation, and that's the other thing that they
Okay.
are being exempted from.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions before I open the public hearing?
Is there plenty of parking available? I know that most of it is just drop off, but there's still plenty of parking available for the additions, correct?
We've not proposed any changes to the parking lot. The times I've driven by there, Chuck, I haven't noticed any parking issue, but I believe we're still within the parking standard for that use. I should ask Rachel.
They've also filed a DDP for this, which was the reason why the variance came about, and so that's something that will be checked through the review of the detailed development plan to make sure that the parking is adequate for the amount of square footage that's being added to the building.
Is the
Thank
added
you.
space classroom or, I guess, academic, whatever you call your,
Chuck, the use of the space that's being added, that's what they have a question on. Yeah.
you'll just state your name and address for the public record and Mike, please.
My name is Chuck Duke, 1609 East Greyhound Pass, Carmel. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your question. Yeah.
The question, I think, at least from my perspective, is does the do the additions give you greater capacity for more pupils, more students?
Yes.
Or- Okay.
Yeah, we found the pandemic has created a huge need for infant care. And we get about 50 rejections a month asking for care, and this has been going on for about 6 months, well, probably 10 months. So that's why we made the decision in January to see if we could go ahead and add on. So we're looking at 2 infant rooms. We currently have 1 infant room, which is 8 babies. So 2 more infant rooms, 24, added on, 16 plus the initial 8 will have a capacity of 24. And then our other 2 rooms will be toddlers, because we have a lot of families that, you know, bring siblings in, basically. So it'll give us an additional capacity of about 40 students total.
And at least, just based on the question, parking will be addressed at a different hearing, but you don't anticipate any issues. I guess you'd have some additional staff parking presumably, and additional traffic at your drop-off times and pickup times.
Yes, that was something we discussed early on with city planner Caleb, and we basically went to our neighbors, and conveniently on the south side of us is a Bustle Funeral Home, and we've known the Bustles for a long time, and they have a similar interest in parking. So the plan that we submitted, it actually connects our 2 parking lots, and they need the lot when we're not there. They do evenings and weekends for funerals, and then we need parking at just 2 times during the day, during pickup and drop-off. If we didn't have those 2 times, we'd be fine, but that's when we get people coming in and dropping off and picking up. So they've agreed to work with us, and we submitted a paper, so that would give us about another 8 or 9 parking spots that we could utilize, and then they'd have our whole lot on the weekends. So it really worked out pretty well for the type of businesses.
Sure. Great, thank you for the explanation. Any other questions before we open it up? Okay, I'm gonna open this for a public hearing at 7:21. Do we have any cards or any communication thus far?
We have no cards and no emails.
Okay. Nothing come in yet?
Nope.
I'm gonna close the public hearing at 7:22. Any additional comments or questions? Petitioner indicated that they have reviewed and accept the recommended conditions for approval that staff has provided. Any other comments, questions?
I was just going to say that you've been there longer than I've been alive.
Nice
Anything
comment.
else? I will entertain a motion on this petition.
I make a motion to approve 2107-VS-23 1609 East Greyhound Pass with the following conditions for approval: that the variance only applies to the building additions being reviewed under the detailed development plan. Number 2, that the building additions shall be constructed in substantial compliance with the building elevations. And 3, that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
Second.
Motion by Jeff Bowler, second by Victor McCarty to approve this petition, subject to staff's 3 recommended conditions. Dan, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Morales.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I will make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Matter is approved.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda is 2017 VS 24, 16539 Vintage Court North, Scott Hackman petitioner, seeking a variance of development standard to encroach 19 feet into the 30-foot minimum rear yard setback to accommodate a swimming pool and deck. And that is Mr. Crabtree.
Yes, good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance development standard request for 16539 Vintage Court North, a .50 acre parcel also located in the Brookside subdivision. The request is to encroach 19 feet into the existing 30-foot rear yard setback to accommodate a swimming pool and deck. This item is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. It has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received no comments. Additionally, the Brookside HOA has approved this request, which can be seen as Exhibit 4. The petitioner, Scott Hackman, is present this evening, though he does not plan to make a presentation. He is available for questions, as am I if there are any of staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a real quick question. Is that supposed to be 2107 or is it supposed to be 2106?
Should be 2107, so I
Okay.
guess for the record, the item that is currently on the agenda that is 2106 VS 24 should be 2107 VS 24.
Say.
Everything else was 2107. I just wanted.
One additional comment, I guess this is proposed to go very, very slightly into the drainage and utility easement at the rear. That has been approved by the Public Works Department.
Okay, in the absence of a presentation, I will open a public hearing at 7:26. Do we have any cards, any electronic communication?
We have no cards and no emails thus far.
Okay. Nothing additional, I presume?
We have no emails.
Close the public hearing then at 7:27. Mr. Hackman, I just wanted to ask a question or two. If you could approach and state your name and address for the public record, please.
Scott Hackman, I'm the owner of 16539 Vintage Court North in Westfield.
Thanks. Just, it looks like you've got an expanse of common area, it looks like back behind you. Do you have any plans for landscaping or fencing or anything obscuring the pool from view?
It's hard to see. I've planted probably 30 trees or bushes already.
Okay,
And so it's not on this older picture.
sure.
And then we had to take down a dead tree in the common area, and they asked me if I would, so I put up 3 nice big pine trees back there, so almost no line of sight. The 2 neighbors that are just to the north of me are impacted almost more by sound than they would be by sight, and they're both on board. So, so there's spent a lot of money to make it pretty back there, so a
Okay.
lot of privacy.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments? If nobody has any additional questions or comments, I will entertain a motion for the treatment of this petition.
I'll make a motion to approve 2107-VS24, 16539 Vintage Court North with 2 conditions recommended that are the property be developed in substantial compliance with Exhibit 3, and that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Economic and Community Development Department.
Economic.
I'll second that.
Motion by Janine Fortier, second by Jeff Bowler to approve this petition, subject to the stated staff recommended conditions. Dan, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I will make a motion to adopt staff's finding of facts for the approval of this petition. All those in favor, voice vote, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Matters approved. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next item on the agenda, 2107 VS-25, 20097 Centennial Road. Keith Burns seeking a variance of development standard to modify the minimum lot frontage from 250 feet to 150 feet for an existing lot so an accessory building can be constructed. And that is Mr. Crabtree.
Yes, good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard request for 1250 West 161st Street. Excuse me, I flipped to the wrong intro. Oops. 2097 Centennial Road, a 3-acre parcel zoned AGSF1. Based on historic records, the property was part of a legal conforming lot until sometime between 1994 and 2000, when the lot was subdivided, resulting in the subject property and an adjacent parcel. This subdivision relegated the subject property with less than the required 250 feet of road frontage, making it an illegal, non-conforming parcel. The petitioner did not own the subject parcel until 2014, at minimum 14 years after the illegal subdivision. Because the property is now deemed illegal, non-conforming, a variance must be granted in order for any building permit to be issued. As such, the request this evening is for a variance of development standard to modify the minimum lot frontage from 250 feet to 150 feet, so the petitioner may be issued a building permit for an accessory structure. This item is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. It has been properly noticed and advertised, and the department has received no comments. The petitioner, Keith Burns, is present this evening, though he does not plan to make a presentation. He is available for questions, as am I if there are any of staff. And I guess an additional note, this was found when the permit request came in to the department, and it was researched about the lot. And so if this request is granted, the permit, the building itself is already conforming and would be issued tomorrow. So, which is why there is no exhibit showing the need, because there is no actual variance tied to the building itself. It's just the lot.
The one distinction I wanted to ask about that I was questioning in the staff report, and now I'm questioning even more based on your explanation, you say it is illegal, non-conforming now?
That is correct, because the property not only lacks the amount of road frontage, it was subdivided probably at the county without any sort of platting done. Now, we didn't require platting at the time for agricultural purposes, but because it is non-conforming due to lack of road frontage, and it was split. When it was split, it became non-conforming because of that. That is why.
Well, I thought based on the staff report, since you weren't required to plat it, therefore, I thought that was the distinction. The lack of an administrative plat requirement was the distinction that made it legal.
So a legal non-conforming
Staff?
typically is something that is at one time legal and becomes non-conforming naturally due to some sort of a UDO amendment or something like this. In this case, the property was legal and then became illegal because it did at one time have the necessary road frontage.
Is the staff report incorrect where it says legal but non-conforming?
If the staff report at any reference to this property as it exists today says legal non-conforming, then yes, that is incorrect.
Okay, gotcha. That's
Then
where I
I
was
would-
thrown off.
Yeah, the mechanism of platting versus not is
Not a
really
distinction.
irrelevant
Okay.
at
Yeah,
this.
so, yeah, and our council just showed it to me, so yes, that that staff report is currently incorrect, and so
Okay.
let
I
the
got
record
you.
show that.
Let's see, I have not opened a public hearing, so at 7:34, I'll open a public hearing in the absence of a presentation. Any cards or communication?
No cards. And right now, no emails.
Looks like when they subdivided, they made it exactly 3 acres, which is the GSF1 requirements.
Yep.
They saw that requirement, they just blew off the other one.
Yeah,
This has been 250 forever, too.
yeah.
What part did they get rid of?
I could be incorrect, but I literally believe it's the one directly south of it. And so that was at one time one parcel.
Which is all owned by the property further south, I know, it's the same owner. Wanna check real quick, Dane?
Yep.
We're closed.
No emails.
Close the public hearing at 7:35. Any questions, comments, anything to ask the petitioner?
Is that land currently being farmed? Some of it? I don't know if it makes any difference at all.
No, it's not. Go ahead, now that you've spoken, go ahead and step up to the, now we got you. You never should have done it. That's all right.
Keith Burns at 20097 Centennial Road, Sheridan. It's not being farmed right now. It's just, I mow it and that's it.
Okay. I don't think there's much issue with the frontage requirement with the character of the street improvements. When you widen that out a little bit, there's plenty of room. He's got plenty of width back, farther back. So. Any questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion for the petition.
I'll make a motion to approve 2107-VS-25, 20097 Centennial Road, with the one recommended condition that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Economic and Community Development Department.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. McCarty, seconded by Mr. Buller to approve this petition 2107 VS 25, subject to the staff recommended conditions. Dan, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. I will make a motion to adopt staff's finding of fact for the approval of this petition. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I didn't wait for a second on that. I don't know if I have all night.
Yeah, you haven't at any time. It's all right.
Thank you, matters approved. Thank you for. Make a blanket second of all my motions to adopt staff's findings, Victor.
Second all the above.
Final matter on the agenda, 2107 VS 26, 1250 West 161st Street, Matthew Obras, seeking a variance of development standard to modify the minimum front yard setback from 100 feet to 40 feet for a single lot. And the presenter is Mr. Crabtree.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard request for 1250 West 161st Street, a 1.01 acre parcel. The petitioner received variances of development standard at the September 15th, 2020 BZA meeting to reduce the minimum lot frontage and minimum lot size for 3 parcels in the now titled Obras Estate subdivision. The required right-of-way dedication during the platting process of Obras Estates will result in the loss of approximately 60 feet of depth for the parcel immediately adjacent to 161st Street. Despite this loss, the 100-foot minimum front yard setback adjacent to an arterial per the Westfield thoroughfare plan is still required. As such, the right-of-way dedication not only resulted in the existing residence adjacent to 161st Street becoming legal non-conforming as it no longer conforms to the 100-foot setback, it also poses a challenge to properly locate a new future residence on Lot 5. As such, the petitioner's request is to modify the minimum front yard building setback from 100 feet to 40 feet, which is the approximate setback of the existing home post right-of-way dedication. This item is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. It has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received no comments. The petitioner, Matt Obras, is present this evening. Though he does not plan to make a presentation, he is available for questions, as am I if there are any of staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if it would be the petitioner or staff, but whoever put together the presentation that is the exhibit that shows the setback illustration, I think that's helpful. And if, I was thinking of the other one, but if you want to walk through whoever walk through those and kind of explain the impact of those. The one, I think it's exhibit.
Oh, setback exhibit.
Exhibit
Yeah.
3, setback exhibit, yeah.
There we go.
So that, let's see it.
Matt Obras at 1234 161st Street. So, yeah, this was overlooked last year. And so you could see the line that's to the north on the top is where the existing 100-foot would be from the new setback. So we're just asking to move that forward to that red line, which would be in line with the planned Derby Ridge development to the west, as well as the existing houses on the east. The reason for that, you can kind of see on the north side of that first parcel there, there's a line of mature trees. And so we're trying to preserve all those. And if we build back in that area, we're going to get into the roots and probably lose most of them. So trying to keep it forward just in line with where we're at to the east and west.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty effective, very effective exhibit. What was the other one that you had up a second ago that,
Yeah, it's just showing where the driveway is going to come in and kind of where the house will sit.
Okay. And then you've got an egress easement across the west side of all three of those to serve the, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lawyer or an attorney that bought the last lot in the back, and he's making sure we have the right paperwork recorded.
Good. Okay, I will open the public hearing on this matter at 7:42. Well, we don't have any cards, I'm confident of that. Do we have any communication at all?
And we have no emails.
Okay, I'll give it a minute-ish. Refresh your phone here real quick.
No public comments.
Close public hearing at 7:43. Any questions, comments from the board?
I just had one brief one. I couldn't remember from the last time you were here with this discussion regarding where the garbage cans and recycling cans are going to be, just to make sure everything's safe. I mean, we know as busy as that road's get now and so forth. So didn't know if garbage trucks are moving in or just going to pick them up at the end of the road there.
Yeah, they're going to still be on the end of the road. There's a widened curb on there where we will put the mailboxes on the west side and room for the trash cans away from the road on the east side.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Because whoever, I think it was Mr. Kingshill.
Yeah.
Gotta keep his memory alive.
I have a question for staff. What's the existing right-of-way of 161st Street there?
So, I mean, if you go to the plat, it should show, so the required dedication looks like was an additional 75 feet inward there. And it's a secondary arterial, which I believe requires either a 125 or 150, 120, 120 square feet, so.
So 60-foot half.
60,
If it's 75, it'd be 150.
yeah, so that 75-foot dedication in there should take care of everything on that north side. But yeah, if it's an arterial, probably 150-foot total right-of-way along that per the thoroughfare plan.
So the 40 feet is from the 120 feet?
From the new.
Yeah, the 40 feet would be from the brand-new front lot line north, yeah. So effective, yeah, you, looking at this, then it would be 115 feet from the original, where the original lot line was. So where the house would be placed would actually be in excess of a setback than what would be allowed if there was no right-of-way dedication done, yeah.
Well, he's showing a 30-foot building line on there now, but it's gonna be 40-foot, correct?
That's been updated.
Okay.
The 100-foot setback that is to code or to standard is what's on here, and this variance would be.
Correct, so the ultimate result is you would slide that line that is now at 30 feet would be 10 feet farther to the north.
Correct.
And that ends up being the setback line?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And even though it's probably the side yard of the house, it's looked upon as this front yard because it faces the arterial, is that the?
It's still gonna face.
Yeah,
house will
the
face
front
out.
yard would be 161st regardless of if that's where the front door was facing, yeah.
But you are facing it to the street?
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept 2107-VS-26, 1250 West 161st Street with the following conditions. One, that the approval of the variance shall be limited to Lot 5 as shown on the Obras State Secondary Plat, Exhibit 6. And 2, that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Economic and Community Development Department.
And I will second.
Motion by Mr. Bowler and seconded by Ms. Fortier to approve 2107 VS 26, subject to the two staff recommended conditions. Dan, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, and I will make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition. Do we have a second?
I'll second for all the above.
Motion by myself, seconded by Victor to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2107 BS 26. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. You're approved. Good luck. Thanks.
Yeah, pull that.
Keep it safe.
Back up after we looked at it. Yeah.
That concludes the matters on the agenda. Victor, did you have a report on Plan Commission activity?
I do indeed. Pretty much everything was either an overall development plan or primary plating. We had a new office building going in there at the corner of Spring Mill and 156th Street across from New Joy. Over on the approved Chatham Village South, declaration of right-of-way. Union Square was primary plat, and these are all public hearing items, by the way. And over on Mule Barn, that took up most of the discussion regarding a new concrete batch plant. So, that is all.
Great, thank you. Anything for staff?
Nope, nothing this evening.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. 7:49.